So our third talk is from Dr. Viktoria Mileva. Victoria is a lecturer in psychology at the University of Stirling. She's interested in human face recognition, face perception, and human social status. And she's going to be talking to us this morning about implementing a clear AI use framework for assessments at the University of Stirling. This sounds absolutely fascinating. So if I could hand over to you, Victoria.
So I'm coming in from psychology, but I did a biology undergraduate degree. So I kind of came to biology really late, to psychology really late and through the back door. And this is actually a framework that we're using across the Faculty of Natural Sciences. So I thought it would be relevant today to you guys. Right, let me just move my slides along. Right, so why use a framework? Basically, it'll help students understand what they're allowed to do. And as Maria pointed out just now, one of the main things that the students seem to be struggling with is what are they allowed? What use are they actually allowed? We found that our university at Stirling, I don't know if it's changed much, but when we designed this, or when we implemented this framework last year, it was actually, there wasn't much. It sort of said, right, go to the module coordinators. The module coordinators will tell you what to do. And module coordinators, as Maria said in her, were struggling themselves with AI. So we thought, okay, we're gonna implement this framework. It's gonna help staff understand what's allowed. It'll help students understand what's allowed. It'll hopefully decrease the chances of accidental academic misconduct by students, and it will augment that university policy, which was very broad and very vague and really called upon each individual module coordinator or program director to sort of decide what was okay. So what did we use? We used something called the AI and Assessment Framework. This was originally developed by Dr. Mike Perkins, who works at the the British University Vietnam, and his colleagues Jasper Rowe and Leon Furs. If anyone's looking for a really great blog, on AI use in education, Leon Furs' blog is amazing. I would highly recommend it. There's since been several iterations, and I'll explain the first and the second, but Stirling used version 1. So for this last year, we used the first version of the framework. So just really quickly, what is version 1? It's very prescriptive and rules-based. There's a traffic light system going from red to green, and the levels are not mutually exclusive. So I'll just show you really quickly. So this is now the outdated version. This is the one we use, but it is no longer the main version of the AI and assessment scale. But I hope you can see my pointer. So it starts at level 1 with no AI use. And again, it just tells you AI must not be used for any point of this assessment. Then AI level 2, no AI content is allowed in the final submission. AI level 3, can be used, but your original work has to be in an appendix. AI level 4, task completion and human evaluation. So you basically ask an AI to do something, and then you comment on how well that's been done. And then full AI integration. So this is, you can use it throughout the assessment as a co-pilot, as a friend, as a mentor, tutor, whatever you want to use it for. And you don't have to specify what parts have been used. So we took this and we made it our own. But before that, before I tell you how we use this version, I just wanted to really quickly tell you about the second version. So the second version that's come out since, in fact, it came out in August of last year. And at the end of August last year, and by August of last year is when we had all of our documentation set up and everything ready for the students. And then version 2 came out literally as we were implementing this, our first version. So, but anyway, version 2, it's a bit broader, it's a bit vaguer. There's no more traffic lights because apparently that's a bad system pedagogically, because it kind of makes it seem like red is bad and you should stop and green is good. And so there's many reasons for it, but they've basically done no more traffic lights. And what they've said is just pick the best level for your needs. So it now looks like this. The first one is still no AI. The second one is you can use it for planning. The third one is you can use it as a co-pilot. Or, well, not quite, you collaborate with it, but you no longer have to submit any kind of appendix or anything about your own work. 4 is full AI. So what used to be their previous 5 levels have now been condensed into 4 levels. And this 5th level is this AI exploration, which is kind of, I guess, using it in a more pedagogical context where you solve the task, potentially co-designing new approaches with your instructor. It's great. It's a very education-focused thing. I don't know many people that would use this probably, but one of the first 4 is probably the main ones that we would be looking to use. But how did we actually implement this? Well, firstly, in spring, it was quite serendipitous. I was already working on a document about how can we implement AI in our assessments. And then I happened to attend Mike Perkins's talk about the AI and assessment framework, and I thought, oh my God, this is great. He's finally, they designed a framework where everything can just fit in really nicely. So I talked to the faculty AI advisory group, where we had the chief examiner and the ADLT, the Associate Dean for Learning and Teaching. They gave me the go-ahead. And so then during the summer, I spent a lot of time creating the documentation on the AI use in assessments for students and staff, and I'll get to what that looks like in a second. And then in the autumn, literally days before the second iteration of the AI and assessment scale, I rolled it out to staff and students in the Faculty of Natural Sciences, where every single assessment and every single module needed a level. The good thing about it, well, I guess I'll get to that in a second. But some of the documentation, what I designed was, I tried to keep it really simple. We made it available for every module on our virtual learning environment. So we use Canvas. And so on Canvas, it was available in every module. And then we had examples of several different assessment types. So for example, in psychology, we use lab reports because it is a science. We have lab reports, we have essays, we have presentations, etc. So for example, this is part of the larger infographic that I designed. But on the left-hand side, you have your level, what's allowed, what is not allowed, why, and examples of what you can and can't do. So that's just up to level 2, but we had it all the way through to level 5. To be honest, I designed this infographic and other documentation with the AI and assessment GPT that Mike Perkins and his colleagues created. So they actually have a GPT, a chat inside ChatGPT. There are these specific custom GPTs that people can make. And so what they did is they fed all the information about the AI and assessment scale into that. And so you could ask it questions like, I work in psychology and I need this, and how would you be able to use level 2 for an assessment like this? And then it would help you out. So I co-created all this documentation with ChatGPT and with this specific GPT. If I'm going too fast, please just let me know. The other documentation that I created was a Word document for students so they could access. It was a living document, so it was available on as a document that was just shared, and I would update it as needed. It was a Word document for staff as well, the infographic, which I just showed you, and then an assessment cover sheet. Now, module coordinators didn't have to use this assessment cover sheet, but they could if they wanted to, and it looked something like this. So the module coordinators could delete the levels as they needed to. But for example, if you were allowing level 2 use, then you would just delete level 3, 4, and 5. And then you would ask, this would be a part of your cover sheet for your assessment. And you would say, did you use it at level 2? You either put an X in this box, or I did use it, and then put an X in this box. And then which one did you use and how did you use it? And yes, the levels aren't mutually exclusive. So for one of my own modules, I had to do level 2 and 3. So I deleted level 4 and 5 for my assessment. And I just had these 2, and then they ticked it. Some of them didn't understand how to tick it. It is what it is. Maybe having some actual guidance on how to fill in a cover sheet might have helped. But anyway, that was the documentation, and this was all available. So did it work? Yes, the staff were pretty positive about it. I think, it didn't take too much work. And I think that was one of the main points. It was really easy to implement. And what it meant was, especially with the first version of it, it meant that nobody actually had to change any of their assessments. I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing or not, but they could just keep assessments as they were, but assign a level to that assessment. So it wasn't really hard to learn or to understand. I did a few online workshops with the staff members on how to use the AI and assessment scale, and overall it was quite a positive experience. The students were somewhat lukewarm. The way that staff embedded it into their modules was not standardized, and this is something that's going to need work. But sometimes they said they couldn't find the information. Sometimes the information was actually too vague. So what do you mean by brainstorming at level 2? What does brainstorming actually mean? What can I use it for and what can't I use it for? So even though we had the levels, they still found it too vague. Again, some levels needed more clarity. And then there's also no way that we know if the students actually used it at the level that it was assigned or not. There's no way to tell. We just gave them the instructions, but whether they, I mean, well, there are ways to tell if you're used to reading AI writing, but there's nothing we can do in terms of an academic misconduct. So future directions, almost done. This is my last slide. Would we update to the version 2? I know that our head technologist, who is in charge of doing this across the whole university, and I'll be working closely with him, is quite adamant that we should be updating to version 2. It's not as prescriptive, which means that assessments are going to have to change. And I'm not sure how module coordinators and people who are time poor are going to be, with those news. There are other frameworks and other approaches, like the 2-lane approach, and that actually seems to be working really well for certain institutions. They are mostly spearheaded by a person called Danny Liu in, I think he's at Sydney University in Australia, and he suggests that, you should have most of your assessments open to AI use, but then have these critical touch points where those are the assessments that are graded, and those are the assessments that assess that critical thinking. And again, there's more questions than answers here. We have done this. It's worked out relatively well. We're going to keep it going for a while, but there is no question and there is no doubt that the whole of academia is going to have to change. The whole of the education sector is going to have to change because of AI. And what are we here for as educators? So that's just something to think about. Sorry, I know I ended it on a really vague. Oh, right. Sorry. Other things to think about. The bias in AI. So there's loads of bias in AI. They are, trained mostly on Western models. And so it's going to have this Western bias. It's also can be quite sexist, can be quite racist. The sustainability aspect, it costs an enormous amount of energy to train these models. And the higher the uptake and the more people prompting it, the more of this, the worse it gets for the environment. Equity and accessibility, are we able to, or are we going to be able to provide ChatGPT for everybody? Sorry, I realized that was 12 minutes, so I'll be very quick. Can everybody use it at the same degree? Some people might be able to afford the prescription or subscription levels of AI. So how do we then make sure that everybody's getting the same level of accessibility and equity? And then also, what does it do with the data that it collects? What are the ethics about us putting in our own stuff into it? So loads of things to think about. These are just very broad, but yeah, any questions at all? Please feel free to put them in the chat.